What's up, everybody? Back here with the Paranormal Lounge. This is our second episode for our Spooktober event. This week is SpookCon Alpha. So if you guys don't already know what that is you're pretty close to being around a skeleton. So you guys might want to keep your eyes peeled where you're at just to make sure you're safe. But if you guys want to go and tell us about yourselves, who you are and what you guys do. What makes you spooky?
Sure. So I'm Hannah, and I love all things spooky, all things paranormal. And I've worked in reality TV. I've worked on a lot of paranormal shows before I started this venture of starting my own podcast. And
What are some of the tell us some of the shows you've worked on?
Sure. So the first paranormal show I ever worked on was about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was called Haunted Towns on Travel Channel with the Tennessee Raid Chasers. So I traveled all across the country, went to many different locations. And then after that, I worked on Conjuring Kesha. And that's when Justin started getting involved.
That's when she dragged my ass into this.
Yeah. Is it a little scarier than you want it to be?
Sometimes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely get chills going to some of those places. I've traveled all across the country for all different shows. The most recent one I worked on was Ghost Brothers, Lights Out.
Okay.
So I did that last year, and
they
sent me all around. And it was just a wild ride going to all these places, and I love it. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and
That sounds like a dream, honestly. That would be a bucket list career for me. Unfortunately, I've got Uncle Sam telling me what to do, so yeah.
The government.
So, you said you work before when we were talking that you work with the Ghost Adventures crew.
Yeah, so I'm a writer and researcher on the show, and we just switched over to Discovery Channel straight up. So now we're on Discovery Channel and Max, formerly HBO Max, now just Max. So it feels really cool to be a part of a team where the audience is constantly expanding, and I'm really excited because, it's unlike a lot of other paranormal shows. This is a show to where we're always filming, we're always documenting, we're always investigating. So we're in a constant need of new locations, new energy, new buzz around things. And I think that that's awesome because most productions, you'll work for a few months and then there will be a hiatus until you find another show or until you get a season renewal. But with us, it's ever evolving and it's consistent, which is something that a lot of people in unscripted TV don't really have. And of course, everybody's heard about the writer's strikes and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't affect us in the unscripted world, but you can see where a lot of people in the entertainment industry in general, they don't have that stability. So it's nice to have that in some sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Makes
sure.
sense. Yeah.
So you can't be in the career fields that you guys are in without having to have some sort of like paranormal origin story. Like what got you guys, both of you, involved in this? Like for me, it was like a super young age, right? So, but Hannah, like for you, like where did this begin?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it started for me at a young age. So I had my first experience. I was about maybe 15 years old and I was playing with a Ouija board. And first and last time I will ever use a Ouija board.
Yeah.
And
I hear that a lot.
Pretty much what happened, like in a nutshell, I was playing it with my best friend at the time. And the first thing that happened was it spelled the letters RIP. And then moments later, the power went out only in my room. This is like a huge 10-bedroom house. Power only goes out in my room. So instantly I'm like, okay, this is weird. And we're playing it like in the closet of my house. And then moments later, my TV actually gets struck by lightning and it blows up. And my friend and I, we're freaking out. I'm 15 years old. I have no idea what's happening. So we run outside. We're trying to find my parents. Like, what's going on?
Right.
So that was really bizarre. And then that same night, we had a huge painting in our living room that fell. And it had been up there for a while. So it was just really bizarre that same night that had fallen. And then our alarm system started beeping in a strange way. So it was making all these like something was trying to communicate. And I didn't really understand what was happening. My friend, she was terrified. Like to this day,
understandably,
she sleeps with a Bible like under her bed. It really freaked her out. And she really wants nothing to do with the paranormal. But for me, it really just, I was curious. That kind of sparked my interest in the paranormal. And ever since then, it's just kind of been nonstop. So, but that was like my first,
I feel like the only thing you were missing was opening the refrigerator and hearing the word Zool coming from the other side.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, 100%.
For sure. Did you ever figure out what it was? Like, did you have any more communication with anything? Like, was that just that
No,
wild night?
it was the wild night, and then my mom was like really freaked out because I was telling her about it. And then she was like, what do we do? How do we get rid of this? Like,
Yeah.
so, we end up trying to figure out, do we stage the house or what's going on? And it was just
Did
really
you-
bizarre. We
Did you
ended
like
up doing-
seal the Ouija board or whatever? Because aren't you supposed to like reseal it or something?
Yeah, so I read that you're supposed to like bury it, but at this point my dad is just like kind of over it and he's pissed. So
Yeah.
I think he just like threw it in the trash, which I
Typical
don't know if
dads.
that's what you're supposed to do. Probably not, but
Yeah.
yeah, he threw it away. But what's really bizarre is that like several years later, he said that the Ouija board showed up back on my front doorstep. And I'm from Alabama, but we live in Los Angeles. But yeah, it was just really bizarre. So I'm like, someone was maybe playing a prank on me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that day was just really weird. And yeah, it did kind of go on for a few nights after that, the weird like beeping with the alarm. But then eventually it just kind of died out. We did try to sage, and at one point we even like baked cookies for like an offering for the spirits. And I had my mom like so into this with me. It was so
I
funny.
feel like that could have backfired.
Yeah, I didn't really know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're making me cookies. Why would I leave?
Exactly. Now
Yeah.
I want to stay. Like,
Yeah.
it smells so good in here.
yeah, like I was young. We didn't really have like phones and stuff at that time. So I couldn't
Right.
really like Google like what do I do? Like I just didn't really know. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually it just kind of stopped. And then I went away for college and moved out. And yeah, it hasn't been an issue since, but it definitely, really scared me. And
What was the thing about you had one of those propane heaters on the wall or something, and it like didn't it do something where it exploded out like a flame? Or am I thinking of a different situation?
I think you're thinking of something else because it was
Probably.
my TV that like got caught on fire from the lightning
okay.
strike.
Okay.
And it was all like the way it happened, it was just so in sync. It was like the Ouija board was doing weird things, and then all of a sudden that happens, and then like that same night, and it was bizarre. It was just
It is, man.
strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like my first official experience, and that kind of just opened the floodgates. And
Right.
yeah, ever since then, I've just been really curious. And then when I graduated college, that's when I started working in the entertainment field. And yeah, I've done paranormal shows like the past 5, 6
You started with
years.
true crime though.
And I
right?
did start in
started with
true
true
crime. So
Oh,
Right.
wait. But get this.
Okay. Okay.
So her first job ever in production was as a PA in Kentucky on what show?
on Ghost Adventures,
Whoa.
Huh.
Look at
it's
we're
like
just
a connection.
yeah.
Maybe you were like secret. It's like not a curse. It's like a blessing. You were blessed by whatever that demon was or something. The Ouija board, and now you're just destined to do paranormal work from then on out.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew it was going to get you a job? That's great.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, you gave it cookies, and it's like
Been
these cookies are
qualified
awesome.
since 15.
I'm not gonna get you a career. You know what I mean?
Right.
Here, there's this website called Staff Me Up. Go use it. Check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Possessing you to fill out a resume.
Right.
yeah, but then that was my first job as a PA. I mean, I'm a freelancer, so I work all different shows. But yeah, that was my first job. Long time ago, and then you started working on it, so it's just funny how
Yeah.
things like come together.
That's pretty awesome. So do you have a crazy paranormal origin story too, or is this something like newer for you?
Well, I mean, I grew up watching shows with my mother, like Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and different things like that. And we were always
It's a
really
great
interested
show.
in which story's real, which one's fake, right? Did
Yeah.
George so and so talk from beyond the grave, or is this just a phony story meant to fool you? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then my favorite show was on actually back when it was called ABC Family Channel, I think, and it was
Mhm.
called Scariest Places on Earth.
I
Do you guys remember
one.
that show?
Yeah,
I
remember that
do.
one.
Insanely creepy voice, like very, very obvious, like the island of Poveglia, like this most creepiest monster voice ever.
Right.
Yeah, so that show kind of enthralled me, and I became obsessed with learning about places like the island of Poveglia, Dracula's castle, different places like that. And I was always like a big Michael Myers fan growing up and stuff, like movies that kids should not be watching. My mom bought me like Rob Zombie albums when I was like 12 and
Love
stuff.
Rob
So
Zombie.
You're like a cool
I
mom.
thought she was badass. Other parents are
Yeah.
like, what the hell are you doing? You know?
My dad got me hooked
Set
on
you
Rob
up.
Zombie too.
Right. See, but obviously it worked out. So, but yeah, I would say that something that really made me actually experience it on another level is something that I've never forgot the visual of this creature or whatever the hell this thing is. But I was like 17 at the time, right? I'm a junior in high school. I'm laying on the couch, and all of a sudden I like kind of fall into this like that half in, half out sleep in the middle of the day. It's the weekend. You're not really doing anything. And we had one of those TVs still that had a little bit of a rounded front to the screen. It wasn't the flat screens that we all have now. Yep. So it had a little bit of a dome shape. And I feel like those were like, they were solid glass and had more reflection. Yeah. And in the reflection of this old 2-story up-down duplex that we lived in Ohio, there was this old limestone well in the basement that had been sealed off like 50 years before, right? And it's corroded with black mold and like different things and stuff. And, meanwhile, we're living upstairs and, kind of just huffing the stuff in, I guess, and all this all the time. So that part did make me wonder, is this like illusory? But I've never felt the feeling like this in my life. I look in the screen just for a half second, open my eyes, see in the screen. And what I saw was this full shadow figure directly behind the couch that I was laying on, almost like in this archway coming up from where the basement door would be, right? So the basement's downstairs and the limestone well and everything. And it's almost like I had this flash of seeing like Samara from The Grudge or something,
Yeah.
Like the creepiest figure you could imagine, man, straight black. But when you look at it, it's almost like it's trying to manipulate you by being the size and shape of a child. And
sounds bad.
I mean, at that point, you're 17, you're full of hormones, testosterone, everything's through the roof. And you're starting to feel like a man, at 17 years old. And so opposite of a man, I stand up, like shoot up to my feet, and I'm against the wall, back against the wall, hands outstretched, shivering, like, Mom, please, freaking the hell out. And my mom comes in like, what's wrong? You're pale. Like, what's going on? And I told her what I saw and stuff. And I just remember she's like, well, I'm late for work. I got to go. She ends up leaving. And then I'm in the house by myself. And I sat back down on the couch. I'm like, okay, I tried to convince myself that this was a vision. This isn't something real that I was seeing. But ultimately, it's something that has stuck with me the rest of my life. And so I'm 32 now. So it's been with me for basically another lifetime after that, right? 17 plus 17 it's almost, 32 is pretty much double that.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like I've lived half my life with the idea that something like that could happen to you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To see something like that. And before, I had actually gone down into the basement as a joke with a couple of friends, and we just had a little cheap tape recorder. We didn't know anything about ghost hunting, but we're going down in the basement and we're trying to like antagonize this thing. And then when it had happened was a couple of weeks after that. So we go down, we antagonize this spirit with EVP recorders, asking it questions. Did you die here? You think you should have died? Maybe she deserves it. Maybe he deserved it, whatever, making these jokes and stuff and basically making a mockery of it. And then it showed me why you should be afraid, why you shouldn't be willing to connect with something like that in a mocking way, because it'll always show you up every single time.
Right. Yeah. So I've had quite a number of experiences myself, and I have had one where I was trying to elicit a response from something that I thought was there. And so I grew up in Germany. My dad was in the Air Force. And so my girlfriend had a really, really old house off base, and her room was detached from the rest of the house. So we were out there by ourselves, which in hindsight, her dad must have had a lot of trust in me. And she told me, she's like, hey, something weird is happening in my room. She had her own bathroom in her room. The door would open, the sinks would turn on, stuff like that. And so I, feeling like you said, right. I'm 17. I'm like, I'm going to see what this is. I'm like all jacked up on testosterone and Mountain Dew. And I'm going to challenge whatever this is out here. And so I start doing that. I'm sitting on her bed. And then all of a sudden, this knit wool cap she has on top of her like chest of drawers just jumps from one chest of drawers to another. And we both saw it. And I looked at her. I'm like, did that really happen? She's like, I think that really happened. And I, kind of was like trying to justify it in my mind. I'm like, dude, there's a mouse in the hat and it jumped from one side to the other. And there's no way that could, would have ever happened. And immediately all this really strange, like energy started coming into the room, and I felt like something was sitting there with us. And I just remember feeling like, man, we need to get out of this room. And we got up and got out of the room. We stood there outside of her room, this big window, and the blinds started moving up and down. You could tell it's like looked like something inside the room was blowing air. It was really weird. And we went into the house and told her dad what was going on, because he's like, why the hell are you guys standing on the patio looking into the window? And so we told him, and apparently someone like from, I don't know, decades past had fallen off the roof and had died right outside the room there. And so he was like, oh, that must be what it is. But I had a hard time, even though it was my girlfriend's private room, had a hard time going back into her room alone with her in high school because of that. Like, it just was like, it was so immediate, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. From me taunting this and like saying, it's not real, trying to be loud about it. And then it responded immediately.
So you started kind of in the same similar fashion of like thinking this is a joke, let's make fun of it a little bit.
Right. Okay. And then it showed me pretty fast that something was in there. And like maybe a year or so later, I had moved away from Germany, and I was living in England, and I flew back to go visit her. And again, her dad was really cool and let me crash in her room. I had one of the most intense sleep paralysis experiences I'd ever had in that room.
Did you ever have anything like that before that?
I did. And I've told this story before, but I'll tell you guys. The first time I had it happen to me was in high school, and it was still in Germany. We lived in on-base housing. And I was taking a nap in my room. My brother and sister were playing Nintendo on the TV I had in my room. And I just fell asleep watching them play. And then I woke up and I could hear them, whatever game they were playing. And then I realized I couldn't move. And this is the first time I ever had this happen to me. So I got really scared. And I had seen like a documentary or something like that on TV about those people that have like locked in syndrome, where, you can't move or talk, but you're very aware of everything else going on. And I thought that's what was going on, or like I was dead. And I started freaking out that like, oh my God, I'm trapped in my body. Got really scared. Remember, my heart rate started going up. I started sweating. And eventually I came out of it and told my mom. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sylvia Brown. She was pretty popular psychic. You guys familiar with her?
Yeah, she's the one that had a lot of controversy and all that stuff as well.
She did, yeah. My mom was really into her back in the early 2000s, but she found it in one of these books with her and told me like, oh, you were astrally traveling and couldn't get back in your body. And then from that point on, I was like, shit, like, how do I stop this from happening? But it's happened to me quite a few times. And it happened to me a lot when I lived in England. And I've told these stories as well, but that house was very haunted. And I've had some of those experiences in that house, like the old hag syndrome, hearing the static, the weight on my chest, waking up and seeing something at the end of my bed that would disappear pretty fast. But my brother and sister and I and my mom, we all experienced stuff in this house in England. And we moved into it right after it had been blessed, because there was spiritual activity going on into it. And we moved in knowing that. So I remember thinking that was a little weird, luckily I only lived there for a year, but my brother and sister had to endure that for 4 years. So, but it was a very scary house.
Do you know if the people who lived there after you experienced, did you know anything about them, ever talk to them, ever ask them if they had any kind of experience?
Yeah. So the people that moved back into it was actually the landlord's daughter. She's the one that would come and collect like the rent from my parents. And she ended up moving back into the house, according to my parents. I don't know if she had any experiences, but the people before us did. And I actually, first thing I noticed was that there were these St. Michael's coins that were on all of the windowsills. And so I had spent enough time, in my high school years, like looking up paranormal stuff, and knew that might be like some sort of protection, and asked her, and she told very briefly about how the house had just been blessed. And then I ran into her where I worked on base shortly thereafter. And she told me essentially that her 3-year-old son, who was in the bedroom that my brother was living in at the time, started complaining about an old woman watching him while he slept. And she thought that he was having night terrors, until she went to go leave the house one day. And she's sitting at a bench And the houses in Europe, I'm not sure if you're familiar, most of them don't have like doorknobs the way we're familiar with them. Most of the time, their handles and the lock itself is spring loaded. So when you unlock the door, it kind of kicks the door open for you. So you have to have a key to come in. So there's no like leaving your door unlocked really. And then when you would walk into the house, there was about an 8-foot gap for our mud room and then an actual door that you could just open with the handle. And so she sat down on this bench on the outside of the mudroom door to put her shoes on, stood up, and then in the mudroom door was a stained glass window. And there was an old woman looking at her through the window. And it scared her. She opened the door really fast and there was nobody in the mudroom. And I tell you that part about the door because it's not like the door itself could have been opened or unlocked. And she knew immediately then that something was messing with her son. And but she told me that story and some other stuff about that. And that, sure enough, like my brother and sister had really weird experiences with an older woman, like being that, you know, would bother them. We would hear footsteps, doors would open. My mom and I experienced footsteps going up the stairs the first day we were in that house. So it's, for me, like my paranormal origin story definitely centers around my mom. And that's why I have a pretty healthy interest in it. So.
It makes a lot of sense, man, dealing with like your first paranormal experience is like generational haunting, you know, like multi-generational in the dwelling.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is I think I'm trying to remember the word for it, like audio voyant, where she can like hear things. But it definitely runs in our family. Like I can sit here and talk to you guys for an hour about a lot of the weird stuff and the strange people in my family. But yeah, you know, it's something I love. My wife is very into it as well, but for other reasons. But yeah, that's why I wanted to do this for sure. To have these conversations with people like you guys.
Epic, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Zach.
I had a question for you guys. Hannah, you talked about how like your friend sleeps like a Bible underneath her thing, and she kind of probably went to religion, right? To kind of combat this. We've had other paranormal guests on, and we've kind of discussed like the religion aspect to it. And Brandon and I have had like conversations personally about it. I guess I'm curious of what you guys think when it comes to like religion and the paranormal. Do you think there's like one religion that it's more pronounced with, like the Catholic religion is, you know, they'll send out a priest to actually like do like an exorcist or an exorcism or all that type of stuff. Like other religions don't typically do that. So does that kind of like allude to maybe one religion actually potentially is correct or whatever? Kind of what are your thoughts on religion as relation to the paranormal?
Do you have any theories on that with your friend specifically, or why she went to religion, why she felt that was the strongest?
I'm not really sure.
I mean, I feel like, so you guys, you know, living in a southern state, first of all, you know, you're going to go to traditional Protestant Christian.
Because it was the Bible
faith.
Belt. Like I grew up in part of the Bible
Yeah.
Belt.
It's like the buckle of the Bible Belt.
It did encourage, the buckle of it in Alabama. But yeah, she did start going to church, and you know, she really started kind of going down that path. And you know, I don't really talk to her too much today because she lives actually in Cambodia. She's doing like, she's been over there for like 5 years now, but she was my best friend for like most of my childhood life. And I just remember that experience, and it just affected her so much to the point where like her mom didn't even want us hanging out and stuff. Like she thought I was a bad influence.
Wow.
But yeah, it was wild.
She thought you were such a bad influence with the paranormal, she sent her to Cambodia.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
get you as far away as possible.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned Poveglia in Dracula's Castle. Have you had a chance to visit either of those places?
Oh man, no. I'm surprisingly not as well traveled as I would like to be. Although I feel like I am as a researcher. I feel like I've been to so many more places than I actually have in this world because of the research that goes into these documents, these write-ups, these location pitches and things. And yeah, so no, I mean, I would absolutely love that. And we've actually done, way before my time on the show, I think it was in season 2, Zach and the guys went to the island of Poveglia. It was one of their biggest ones ever, really. And
it's a great episode.
In all 20 seasons, you know? And then I believe there was a return. there, but Yeah, that would definitely be a bucket list location, man, considering all the plague victims that were sent there and things like that. And I
Right.
mean, it's kind of like this place that the island of Poveglia reminds me of a place that just released that everybody should watch. It's an amazing 2-hour special we just came out with called Devil's Island. And it's
Okay.
the first network television investigation of Angel Island in San Francisco Bay.
Wow.
And so you're talking about similar in how Poveglia was like through multiple different generations of bad shit happening to people in that area of the world. Similar with Angel Island, the Spanish in the 1750s, so the late 1750s to the late 1700s. And then you've got Civil War, World War I, World War II, and then all of the Asian immigration and all of the suicide jumps from the Golden Gate Bridge that their body, the floaters, end up right on the southern tip of that island. So you've got kind of this like culmination of hundreds of years of hauntings from different situations, circumstances, and a variety of wars, all centralized on this one place. And the craziest thing to me is that they've got multiple hospitals and garrisons that are all abandoned and just very raw in their original form,
Yeah.
So it's almost like places like Poveglia, places like Angel Island, I feel like they're very similar in how they feel.
Right. That makes me think of like Gettysburg, some of these old battlefields. There's so
Gettysburg.
many videos of people, like it looks like there's apparitions. You can hear bugles and drums and stuff like that. I actually don't live that far from San Francisco, and I've been wanting to do some of the haunted San Francisco stuff. So this is the perfect time of year to do that. But what would you guys say is probably the scariest location you guys have been to, and if you had experienced anything there?
For me, it would be Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that one just has such a dark history to it.
You've literally got a painting of it on the wall. So.
Oh, wow.
Been there twice now for 2 different shows, but that place is just off the charts.
Can I take that and show them?
Sure.
This was actually painted in Trans-Allegheny.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, it's a place of madness, sadness, and destruction where like anyone could have been sent here back in the
Look
time,
at
like
that.
any mental illness.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah, so this was painted by a lady who works at the asylum, and she gifted this to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
When she came on one of the shows that I worked on. So yeah, I look at it every day. So
Yeah. Man.
but that place is just crazy. Like back in the day, anyone could have been sent there for anything. Like a woman being on her period that your family didn't want you, they'd send you there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really, really tragic. And
It is.
yeah, so
The fact that people could get away with destroying your life for such insignificant things is really mind-blowing.
It is. I was going to say, like, aside from just like all the paranormal stuff that tends to circle around those places, it's terrifying how easy it used to be to commit somebody to those places.
absolutely. And it was overcrowded. There were just so many issues. And it didn't even close down until 1994, which is crazy for me to think about because I'm like, I was alive. I mean, I was a baby, but I was alive while this place was still operating. And they did everything from like lobotomies, electroshock therapy, insulin therapy. I mean, it was the worst of the worst. And it's just so tragic. But one thing I remember, a newspaper archive, Freeman, in 12 days, he performed 228 lobotomies.
Dr. Walter Friedman.
Dr. Walter Freeman in just 12 days at this asylum. And they were doing it on kids as young as like 4 years old. And it's just really terrifying, really sad.
Have you guys ever seen the AHS season, Asylum? It's the second season of American Horror Story.
It's based off
that asylum.
That doctor,
is it really?
That crazy doctor in there is loosely based on Walter Freeman and Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Loosely based, yeah.
I did not know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so that place is just off the charts. Now, granted, when the crew investigates, I'm usually kind of outside in a different area because, we don't want crew to intervene. Yeah. But I had an experience when I was there just walking down the hallways and, you just get those like chills and those eerie feelings. But I remember looking down this hallway and it was like the blink of an eye, this shadow figure just like darted out. It was like 3 seconds and it was gone.
Right.
But and I'm walking around alone because part of my job was to kind of take pictures of all the signage because we would have to put everything back, exactly how it was. And they had it set up like a museum. And now this place is massive. Allegedly it's on 666 acres, which is like creepy enough. There's 13 buildings on the property. I mean, it's just massive. We're in like the main building, and I want to say it's like 4 or 5 stories. And yeah, they send me down to the Civil War ward, which is like kind of in the basement. And I'm just kind of going through, just, making sure everything is where it should be. And then all of a sudden, this dark hallway, I just see this shadow just jolt out of nowhere, like blink of an eye. And, I'm freaking out. I'm like on my walkie, like, is there crew down here? Like, is anyone down here? And
thought they were shooting a recreation.
Because we do recreations of the paranormal stories. But that really freaked me out.
Yeah.
But one experience at a different location that really kind of always stuck with me over time. This happened on Haunted Towns, and we were at Fort Worden, which is in Port Townsend, Washington. It's like on the peninsula. And the guys were doing an EVP session. And usually I'm not always in the room where it's happening because, we don't want to interfere. But this was kind of outside in this little tunnel area. And I'm standing there taking notes. I was an associate producer. So my job was to kind of like field log what's happening. And I'll never forget this. It freaked me out. It freaked the guys out. And basically they asked the question, do you mean us harm? And it said, I'll kill you.
Oh,
definite yes.
The way that it sounded, I mean, it was so weird. Like these guys ran out of the area. They went back and they were playing it back multiple times. Like they were just terrified. I was freaked out standing there. And that just really shocked me. And I always think about that because I'm like, the way it was clear as day. It was one of those investigations where it was like, wow, it was obvious that. Yeah, and that it's in the Haunted Towns episode. You can find a clip of them, playing that recording. But that just really, really terrified me because
was that Doogie? One of the team members, was that Doogie that had that?
Well, it was all 5 of them that were doing it. I think it was Chris but they had like one of those. I think it was the DR60. It was one of those like old school recorders. And they were asking a series of questions. I don't remember all the questions they asked, but I remember one of them. They said, "Do you mean us harm?" And instantly, clear as day, it said, "I'll kill you." And they ran out just so scared. We ended up that was kind of it. Like after that, we were like, oh, we're done at this location. It was too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, that really kind of freaked me out.
That would freak me out too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Would not feel safe.
Right.
So, yeah. So your goal with the Paranormal Lounge, you're documenting these places around the country. I assume, I don't know if you have like international goals, but places that are haunted. Is there a place that's like, a bucket list place for you that you would really like to go and document?
Oh, absolutely. The Winchester Mystery House is one that I've really, really been fascinated by. And it's not even that far from us. We're in LA, but that one has been on my bucket list for a while, as well as like the catacombs in Paris. But, that's way overseas. But as far as like the ones here go, that one's definitely a bucket lister.
Yeah.
And then Alcatraz, I actually went there on my birthday. Like, when was that? Like 4 years ago? Cool. So that was interesting. Yeah.
We did the night tour there.
Ooh,
what was that like?
It was really cool. Yeah. I mean, it was awesome that they took you on the ferry boat on the way over as the sun is setting, or for at least the time we went there. And we actually missed the first 2 ferries back, and they only have them running like every hour and a half. What I would say for sure, anybody wanting to go is wear some damn comfortable shoes.
It's a lot of
comfortable shoes. Yeah.
No flip-flops.
There's a weird feeling that we got in one of the isolation cells. Because it's like it's still got that like funky like hospital green kind of color that's chipping off the walls and stuff. It still feels like extremely raw, right? But of course they've got certain things that are more touristic, like plexiglass covering the area so you could see how they crawled up the pipes when they escaped and stuff. But yeah, that place has a lot of you could tell it's been through a lot. It's got a lot of energy, but it's almost like there's been so many shows there, so many investigations done and all that kind of stuff, which makes sense why, the top shows in the genre are constantly trying to find the new locations or the places that have come under new management. Cause there might be a place like, we were told that, with Angel Island specifically, that one takes a while to get through all of the different processes, right? If you're working with state governments, local governments, things. Alcatraz actually, I don't know if it still works this way, but if you wanted to film a paranormal show there, you used to have to do this lottery type situation. And then if you were picked for the lottery, you had to either kind of drop everything your production company was doing, right? So all this, if you had plans to go to Trans-Allegheny or any of these other places, you got to drop all that if you want to go and film Alcatraz. But so many people have done it that it's almost like, do the ghosts even have any energy left in there?
Right. Like, oh, it's another ghost hunter crew, right?
Show up with your cookies, though. Maybe they'll be more.
You should show up with cookies. That's a good idea.
We'll try that next time. What's your bucket list location?
Yeah.
I would say Plovaglia, but anymore, that place is probably so deteriorated from the show that I watched as a kid growing up that I couldn't even imagine being able to set foot in that place without it crumbling right beneath you and you become one of the ghosts yourself,
Yeah.
And so I would say, oh shit, man, probably the White House, to be honest.
I think that would never heard anybody say that. I like that.
I think that would be insane. I haven't done too deep of a dive into this, right? Because it'd be so hard to even want to. It's one of those places where, like, man, it's not going to happen. Why am I even researching this? But
you never know.
Well, all of the things, I like to think about all the hidden stuff, right? They got all these hidden doorways and different secret rooms and things and all this and all these different conspiracy theories that can sort of formulate around paranormal theories, ideas, people that have had accidents in there, different things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
I have heard of like there are some like weird ghost type stuff that happened in the White House.
There's like books on it too, I think.
Yeah, previous presidents have talked about it. I'll see if I can find some stuff about it. It'd be kind of cool if you went there and maybe like Lincoln and Kennedy walked around the corner and said hi. That'd be kind of
pretty scary. Well, if you feel like Alcatraz may be overdone, I know that the Ghost Adventures crew went to the Montana State Prison. And when I was stationed in Montana, I went there with a friend of mine and his wife for their like Halloween like ghost tour thing. And that was really cool. And that place, like you were talking about being saturated with energy, it has that feeling. And I've not been to the like battlefields, Civil War, American Revolution battlefields. I feel like they'd feel the same. But have you been to the Montana State Prison?
I have not. I was speaking on civil or battles and stuff like that. I've been to some battlefields in Maryland and stuff like that, like Antietam. But no, I've never been. Montana State Prison is one I want to go to. I have, when I was younger, been to the Ohio Reformatory because they used to do like tours there all the time. And I always wanted to travel up there growing up to do one of the overnight stays. Because they used to let people come and bring their sleeping bags. I'm not sure if they still do that anymore. They might.
I think Dracula's Castle lets you do that, doesn't it?
That would be cool.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, no, that one might be almost too scary for me personally, but that would be pretty cool to do that with a friend, right? Somebody, But the Montana
maybe too.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That castle. She was like the
Elizabeth Bathory's castle, which is sort of like dilapidated. Half of it's collapsed, but they still have like some original structure, foundation, horse stable areas.
Is she the one that was like bathing in blood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I've heard somewhat about her. But the Montana State Prison still has the gallows outside. And the night we were there for the ghost tour, everybody in our group, we were kind of standing outside where there was a big riot there at one point. And we all heard someone running across like the big field that's in the gap between the building and where the gallows are. And there's snow on the ground. It's October in Montana. And we all heard it. And we ended up walking over there to look, and there were no footprints in the snow or anything like that. But we all definitely heard someone running. And of course, like, I don't know, maybe the guards knew were screwing with us or something, or the people doing the tour. But it was a shared experience with the several people that we were there with. It was pretty cool. But you should definitely go to the Montana State Prison. I highly recommend it.
If I ever end up in Montana, man, I would love that. I've been wanting to. I've never done like a proper road trip across the country or anything like that. I think that would be a cool thing to do, to be able to kind of cut up and then go a little bit north, hit places like Montana, Wyoming, different places like North Dakota,
Yeah.
Deadwood, go to different places like that as well. That would be pretty awesome, man. And there's so many like little territorial prisons in different places that aren't really as much on the paranormal map, like a Wyoming territorial prison, these different places that don't really like, they're not super into the paranormals. They don't really allow it, but they've still got all this great history, like Butch Cassidy and all this different stuff being like the only prison that ever held him. So they've got so many different areas up there in the old frontier West. I feel like that have still yet to be explored, still have yet to make their mark on TV, investigations, anything like that. So those are areas that I'm always actively looking into and stuff. And, it would be cool to travel up there for sure. And then there was another one that you went to in Idaho. You went to the Idaho State Prison.
The Idaho State Prison, yeah. That was with the Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
Okay.
How was that?
Oh, it was good. I mean, it was so long ago now. Like everything just kind of blurs together. But that was one of the first ones that we went to.
Yeah, you also did. I know that for Ghost Brothers, they did Ohio State Reformatory as well.
For Ghost Brothers, we did. Yeah. I didn't go on that episode because I was a field producer, so I kind of rotated with the other field producer. But the Ohio State Reformatory, I think that was their opening episode too for their recent season.
Okay. That's cool. I haven't seen that. Those, I think they're pretty funny. I enjoy their stuff. Yeah. So as far as like your ultimate goal with Paranormal Lounge, is there like an end goal? Like, do you hope to turn all of these places you've visited into maybe like a book one day to just kind of showcase some of what you've done as like a legacy thing?
I love that. Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, there you go. There's an idea. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you just right now just kind of having fun with the page then.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. It's just kind of like a hobby. I enjoy it. I've been to a lot of these locations, so it's fun for me to kind of do a deep dive into them. But I think, it would be really cool to do something like that. I also kind of created a map because I also focus on haunted film locations in Los Angeles.
Oh, I bet there's so
I
much
have
stuff.
a map of like all the haunted locations here. So, you have like the Greystone Mansion, which is iconic in its own way with Edward Doheny, who was like, he died in a murder-suicide. But that mansion, I mean, it's gorgeous and they use it for weddings and things like that. But it's also been in over like 100 movies and TV shows. So, I kind of take that route too, just to kind of make it a little different. The haunted map of Los Angeles. And then, I have kind of on the side thought about maybe like a book or something in the future. But right now it's just like a hobby, a fun thing I like to do.
Okay.
It feels like people want more of the, like just more visual content rather than like reading different things like that. I feel like the main way that Paranormal Lounge has been gathering like more of an audience for you, I feel like through more of your visual aspect of things rather than the blog posts and things like that, because at the end of the day, you can digest so much information from the visual medium versus reading that it's almost like, looking back at this, it's going to be cool to see like in 2023 Paranormal Lounge begins, and then in a few years see how that progresses. It almost seems like with social media platforms, like you got YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks, these different things are the ones that are really going to blow up those paranormal channels.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting how that all works.
Yeah.
But because it's also like my target audience. I don't know if they would actually, want to read a book because I mostly do content creation, but it would be cool maybe one day. Like I'm not opposed to doing that.
For sure.
Awesome.
No. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That's the way to go. And it's almost like kind of a tough nut to crack because sometimes I will do things and I think I'm kind of, mirroring what other people do that is successful. And then I'm not that successful at it. So it's just kind of one of those things I feel like you got to keep plugging away at. But I know you guys got to get off here pretty soon. But is there anything, before we get off talking to you guys that you'd like, your audience to know about what you guys do about yourselves, anything like that?
Yeah, so I would say first, with Paranormal Lounge specifically, Hannah actually got the idea for this, came up with the name and everything, and I was just like, holy shit, that name is so good. You've got to start it just because the name's so good. Like,
that is a good one.
Then, I know that first the idea was that I would not actually be involved in any of these, that I would only help like if she wanted like a little bit of like a note or help with editing or anything like that, and more technical, right, like behind the scenes stuff, whereas that's where I feel more comfortable for sure.
Right.
And but I almost feel like with Paranormal Lounge specifically, this thing is something that's meant for community and absolutely, not just for our personal content production, but because we want to bring people in and get them involved, hear other people's experiences. So I know that you started a really awesome like threads and different things like that to try to open up Facebook chats a little bit more in different groups, yeah, have and things like that.
Because it really, to me, it really is all about community. And I guess like if I did have an ultimate end goal, like my vision actually, when I thought about the Paranormal Lounge, would actually be like a community, like an actual lounge where we lounge around and talk about paranormal. Like that was kind of what inspired me to, want to do the channel. But not sure if I'd ever really get to that one day. But yeah, that was kind of like the ultimate goal of it.
It would be awesome. Cool, man. Like if you see a store that says the Paranormal Lounge on it, like I don't know about you, but I'm going in.
It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah.
Like you'll have those people that like I'm never stepping in there, but in Los Angeles, I mean, people are really open to that. Now back in Alabama, where I'm from, it's
I'm from Florida.
Bible Belt. Oh really? What part of Florida?
The Panhandle, so LA, Lower Alabama.
I get that sometimes.
The joke we call it. Yeah.
What's your favorite beach down there?
I like the beaches in Navarre. My parents really like going out to Okaloosa Island a lot. I'm actually drinking from the Irish wake glass from McGuire's right now.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah. But I mean, Navarre is gorgeous. My brother lives out in the Mary Esther area. Anywhere in that, the Emerald Coast itself is beautiful. What about you?
Mm-hmm.
I like Orange Beach, easy to get to,
Alabama,
and there's occasionally some wind swell wave.
He surfs a lot.
Do you? Okay.
Break up all the paranormal with the surfing.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good way to relax.
In Destin. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, last October, actually.
That's awesome.
29th. So we're coming up on our first year anniversary.
Yeah.
But
well, congrats, you guys. It's actually my daughter's birthday.
That's amazing. Oh, that's amazing, yeah. Oh, I love that.
It is, yeah.
How old is she now? Yeah.
She's 7.
7. Oh,
she'll be 8. Yeah, this month.
That's awesome. Yeah. And do you both have kids?
He's about to.
I have one coming on the way, due at the end of January.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
That's so exciting.
Thanks, for sure.
That's cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on with us. And if you guys head up to the Winchester House, let me know. I don't live far from there and would love to go check it out with you. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that would be really cool. Awesome.
Because we're like, what, a 5-6 hour drive to San Jose?
Depending on traffic, but it is on the bucket list. One day, I definitely want to make it up there. So.
Would be cool. That would be cool.
If you guys do, we could do another collab and put some pictures up on the Paranormal Lounge communite board.
I love that. Sweet. Yeah, it's all about building communities.
Yeah. Do you guys
Absolutely.
Do you guys want anything, any soundbite or anything to add into this afterwards? Any other thing you guys want that you think that we haven't covered yet, or?
Oh no! I mean, I feel like it's gone pretty well. Talking to you guys has been pretty fun. So, but we'll let you get off here. If you want to tell us real quick where everybody can find you, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
on Instagram threads. Okay.
Yeah. So the Paranormal Lounge, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, pretty much all social platforms. I'm definitely the most active on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, the Paranormal Lounge. I mean, even if you Google search, you'll see our stuff pop up.
But, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, again, thanks for coming on with us, and everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed listening. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram. So good night to you guys.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for having us on. It was a pleasure chatting with you guys.
For sure.
What's going on, Fire fans? I Came With Fire podcast is sponsored by Red Clover Coffee and Sheep's Clothing, LLC. Red Clover Coffee is a veteran-owned company with small batch roasted coffees, and they just happen to donate to some pretty awesome charities. Whether you're into specialty flavored coffees, single source coffees, or having a really cool coffee mug and some badass slaps, Red Clover has you covered. You can order ground, whole bean, or even coffee pods and get it all at 10% off your entire purchase using coupon code CAMEWITHFIRE. Again, that's 10% off your entire purchase using our coupon code CAMEWITHFIRE. I personally love their Blueberry Invasion and African Roast. That Blueberry Invasion hits the spot. Head over and get yourself some awesome coffee and support us by supporting our sponsor. I Came With Fire podcast is also sponsored by Sheep's Clothing, LLC. Sheep's Clothing, LLC is a unifying banner for all violent arts, disciplines, professions, and survivors of violent circumstances. Redefine violence. Both Zach and I being survivors of violent circumstances and LEOs in the military, we are especially excited to be able to offer you 10% off your entire purchase with coupon code FIRE10 at checkout. Whether you're looking for an awesome t-shirt, hats, slaps, flags, or MMA gear, they've got you covered. Me personally, I love my snapback with the leather patch surrounded by God's flannel. If you know, you know. That's coupon code FIRE10, FIRE10 at checkout for 10% off your entire purchase. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast, and if you should feel compelled, treat yourself by supporting our sponsors as well. They truly make a difference for us. Now let's make a difference for them. See you on the next show.